Our big story today. Every time the Indian subcontinent is hit with a big earthquake, we begin questioning our safety and the strength of our homes. Delhi NCR, majority of North India, parts of MMR and Gujarat are all seismically prone to severe earthquakes. But we hardly question whether the residential towers being built in our cities can withstand the big one. We are not just sitting on active fault lines, our earthquake protection laws also seem to be at fault. Here's my report. About 15 months back, the National Disaster Management Authority had claimed that India's Himalayan belt had developed enough strains to cause an earthquake of 8 or a higher magnitude that will end at least 8 to 9 lakh lives. The question, therefore, is not when an earthquake will strike, but if an earthquake strikes, will our homes still be standing? Months after the property show brought you this story last winter, it seems the prediction came true too soon. The devastation in Nepal following the massive earthquake of April 25th has rung the alarm bells in India. The death toll now over 3,000 and counting, and the thousands rendered injured and homeless is a wake-up call for India and its state of disaster preparedness. India's densely populated cities are booming with new housing stock. Some cities sit right on seismic fault lines, but the homes we are building today are grossly inadequate when it comes to earthquake resistance. The fault line, it seems, lies in India's building code. The Bureau of Indian Standards has not updated the National Building Code for the last 10 years. There exists no mechanism in the building codes for safety certification of buildings from natural disasters. And the most alarming gap is the absence of a specialized seismic code for tall multi-storied buildings. That means 50-storied buildings are treated the same as 10-storied structures in the code. Earthquake engineering expert Sandeep Shah says, apart from the weak building code, inaction by the National Disaster Management Authority also leaves us vulnerable.
What is very surprising is that there's a lot of information sitting in government books and files which is not being disseminated to the public. And this information is actually life-saving information. For example, earthquake-resistant buildings are also graded in 4 categories. And let's, for present discussion, just call it A, B, C and D. Category A being the highest and category D being the lowest. Government of India has given specific definitions to each one of these, and they have also released a document in 2010. This information is not being passed down to the people living in such buildings.
NDMA had spoken of categorizing buildings on the basis of their performance levels. The highest level is called fully operational. Such buildings do not encounter any damage and can continue functioning even during an earthquake. The second performance level is immediate occupancy. Such buildings develop minor cracks but can remain operational after the earthquake. The third performance level is life safety. A building of this performance will be significantly damaged but does not reach the state of collapse and can be made functional after retrofitting. And the last performance level decided by NDMA is collapse prevention. Such buildings suffer major damage and will witness imminent collapse. But 5 years since, these guidelines have still not been incorporated in the seismic code. The current code only prescribes buildings to achieve the minimum level of collapse prevention.
Every Indian citizen should be knowing that the building he is purchasing or renting, or even the building he is entering in for a meeting, to attend a meeting, what category of earthquake resistant it is. Just this information, without you having done anything on the structure, just this information will save lakhs and millions of people, because they will exactly know how they're supposed to react when the earthquake strikes. And once they do it, their lives will be saved.
In recent times, the NDMA, long criticized for having become a parking lot for the retired, has swung into action. The centre has appointed domain experts to bring in fresh energy into the NDMA to rewrite the building code. The Supreme Court has ordered that all real estate projects display their earthquake resistance category and that the NDMA carry out a public campaign to educate the public about the 4 categories. But experts warn that such efforts will collapse if the enforcement is weak.
There is a feeling amongst almost everybody that these codes should be legally binding for all these stakeholders, especially the builders. There is right now no such provision. But what we need probably to do is we have to categorize these into two parts. One is the codes, another is the specifications. Codes should be legally binding and specifications should form as a guidelines.
The other critical reform we need today is how we'll retrofit our existing building stock and how we'll get people to demand homes that are built to last. Vasudha Sharma, NDTV. Shocking that there is no code for high-rises in a country which is today thriving with multi-story projects across India, that puts home seekers in such a vulnerable position because all that they are told is that their project conforms to the building code, but little do they know that the building code only talks about towers up to a height of 10 stories. So that's a really shocking point there when it comes to our national building code and how strong it is when it comes to building earthquake resistant structures.